Hello, my name is Sophia Engelking, and today I'm going to be talking about the book Angel of Greenwood by Randy Pink. So to get into it, I'm just going to kind of give you a brief rundown of these two main characters. So yes, Angel Hill. She is known around town as the goody-goody. She's a devoted follower to Booker T. Washington, who his beliefs kind of align with, through tolerance and education, Black people will become equals eventually. So she's been bullied by Isaiah Wilson and his best friend Muggy pretty much her whole life. And her father is dying of an unknown illness, which is very sad. And their financial situation is kind of in turmoil. Isaiah, he is known as the troublemaker around town, partly because he is friends with Muggy, and deep down, so that's surface level Isaiah, but below the surface level, he has a journal, and he is an amazing poet, and he likes to read, and he doesn't really share this with anyone. The only person that really knows is his English teacher, Miss Ferris, and but other than that, he kind of keeps it to himself. I did forget to mention that Isaiah is also a follower of W.E.B. Du Bois, which he kind of has the opposite point of view of Booker T. He kind of believes that Black people need to actually take a stand, and that's the only way that they will rise up to become equals. They shouldn't just sit back and tolerate. So to get into just a quick little summary, I'm kind of just gonna start with one day Isaiah was at church, and he sees Angel up there doing her thing, doing praise dance, and I'll just sum it up real quick. He falls in love. He is in love. And he ends up writing a poem about her in his little journal entitled Black Angel, which is absolutely amazing. And following that, he's in love, and one day he is in English class. His English teacher can tell he's upset. They end up talking. She reads his poem. She's bawling, kind of like how I was, and tells him, you're in love. And Angel actually walks in the room, and she ends up offering them a job, and Isaiah says he'd love to, yes, I want to do it. Angel, on the other hand, which rightfully so, she's been bullied by Isaiah her whole life, says, I want to think about it. Miss Ferris is, okay, you can think about it. And then, so following that, Dorothy May and Isaiah kind of have this little thing going. They like to kiss, I guess. And Dorothy May shows up to Isaiah's house, and he is hesitant to let her in. He is in love with Angel. He is Angel, but he lets her in, and basically we end up learning that her and Muggy were scheming together, and Dorothy May gets a hold of Isaiah's journal and gives it to Muggy, and Muggy, the asshole he is, gives it to, or doesn't give it, but shares the poem Black Angel with Angel, and that's when the ball starts rolling between them. So he shares that poem with her, and Angel ends up talking to Isaiah and says, I'm going to take the job. And they end up starting to work together. And side note, this is also important, I don't know how I forgot this, Isaiah's really angry with Muggy. That's kind of when they stop being friends. And not just because it was just an invasion of privacy, but Muggy also took out his college letters of intent, and he took them out of the journal, which those are extremely important to Isaiah. Those are his future. And he ends up going to Muggy's house, and he's banging on his door. He's ready to rumble, and obviously the coward that he is, Muggy does not come out. And yeah, so that happened. But so yeah, cuts him off, good for you, Isaiah, cut off the toxic people in your life. And he ends up, taking this job. Him and Angel are working together. Romance is in the air. Sparks are flying. But, you know, in between there were some conflict just because of their differing points of views on, you know, Du Bois and Booker T. Washington. However, even though that conflict arose, you know, tears were shed, arguments, apologies were made, they do find some commonality, which kind of just strengthens the relationship. So yes, they're doing good. You know, they're holding hands, walking in town, and they see Muggy, and basically, long story short, Isaiah knocks him on his butt, and it was a very satisfying part to read in the story. So yeah, that happens, and so yeah, that just kind of cuts them off even more. And then the Memorial Day parade rolls around, everything's going good. People in town are actually starting to like Isaiah, and he's kind of breaking out of his reputation of being a troublemaker, which is really good for him, and you know, he can see that. And again, Memorial Day parade, everything's fine. And then Isaiah wakes up early that morning at like 1 a.m. and he sees Greenwood is burning. And that's kind of when tears started to flow for me. So yes, Isaiah gets his mom and they're out of there. And Isaiah's, you know, running around door to door trying to get people out of there. And he's directing them to Mount Zion, the church. And because he's thinking surely they would not burn down the church. Come on, they can't go that low. But obviously they do. And then, so yeah, that they're kind of showing Isaiah's point of view, and then they jump to Angel, and Angel's faced with the unthinkable because of her father. Long story short, they had to leave her father, and because of how sick he is, and he's just not physically able to just go on and go through this. So they do have to leave him, and Angel, being the angel she is, you know, tells her mom to go to Mount Zion, you know, go without me, like, I need to help these other people. And that's what she does. She's going around helping and trying to get as many people as she can. She goes and saves these little girls that her and Isaiah met and read to. She literally saves one of the little girls' mother's life, and that was also just amazing to read. And eventually they all go to Mount Zion, and they quickly realize, Angel realizes that there's a plane circling and they're gonna bomb the church. And she ends up telling everyone that, and we also see this other side of Muggy, which this was just amazing. I love that the author did this. We see Muggy we see this heroic side of him, and like kind of all is forgiven with all the trouble that he caused. He pretty much saves so many lives, more than Angel and Isaiah did. He decides to stay behind. Sorry, as I was saying, there were some technical difficulties. So yes, he decides to stay behind and ring the bell in church to notify even more people, like wake people up, because there are still some people like sleeping through this riot and they don't know what's coming to them. So he decides to stay back, ring the bell, he wakes people up, they bomb the church, Muggy dies, the rest of the people who were in the church make it to the field, and it ends on a good note. All is forgiven with Muggy, and he's just the hero of the town, and it was just amazing. Now moving on to my claim, which is pretty much the idea of just toxic masculinity that we see in this book between Isaiah and Muggy. And basically, we know that Isaiah is beneath the surface. He, you know, loves poetry and reading and writing, and that is seen as a feminine hobby, and he knows this, and he knows that if Muggy knew this, he would be roasted, and he doesn't want to have to deal with that. And he also feels like he needs to conform to, you know, Muggy's ideologies of just being a complete butthole and just being rude to everyone, which we mostly see is women. He's rude to women. Specifically Bloody Mary. They do share that story in this book about how Muggy takes a sanitary pad, puts ketchup on it, Mary sits on it, and then continues to call her Bloody Mary, and that's how she's known. And that is when we see Isaiah write the poem The Shield, which is expressing his hatred towards Muggy. But we also like understand, they share in this book that Muggy's family is very well off. They own a very popular butcher shop that even the white people come to. And after Isaiah's father died, their financial situation was obviously in turmoil, and so Muggy's family has been helping him out, which is just another weight added to his shoulders of why he needs to conform to Muggy's standards. So on page 28, we see the quote, "What was he dared to do? Challenge Muggy? Never. If he did, there would be hell to pay." Following that, on page 29, we see Isaiah can never show himself as he truly was on the inside. Lower on that page, that kind of goes with Isaiah's trying to have this intellectual conversation and about Du Bois, and Muggy goes, "Not this Du Bois foolishness again. We're living in a black man's paradise. We're free to come and go as we please, walk down our own streets, sipping our own cola, and smacking our own broads on the backside." So right there, we kind of get a good look into what Muggy's priorities are, women, women, women. Not much more going on behind his eyes other than that. And so a few more quotes that support this claim. I'm just kind of going to jumble them all together. On page 54, "He was born who he was, impulsive and mean, and for Isaiah to exist in his company, he had to transform himself into the same. Isaiah didn't see any choice but to follow. And when Muggy decided that Angel was unattractive, boring, and too much of a goody-goody to spend time with, Isaiah wrote her off, but not completely." So that was all on the same page. So that is a lot to unpack, but not a lot to unpack at the same time. He feels the need to conform to Muggy because it's almost all he has, and his family's financial situation kind of depends on it, and Isaiah obviously doesn't have a father, so Muggy is kind of filling this void in a way, but Isaiah's feeling that like Muggy is all he has. But once Angel comes into his life and Isaiah starts breaking away from Muggy, we see him kind of start to break down his walls and not conform to these ideas anymore. And some quotes to back up that claim are, "Isaiah was conflicted. To get along, he needed to be what was expected of him. Strong, protective, no show whatsoever of weakness. But then when he saw Angel dance, something cracked his resolve. Something softened in him, and it felt good not to be so hard all the time." So, again, that's when we kind of see him start to realize, like, once Angel came into his life, he didn't need to act like this. He doesn't have to be so hard all the time. He admits it feels good not to be so hard all the time after, Angel softened him. And this conflict with Muggy all comes to a head pretty much once Muggy sees Isaiah and Angel holding hands. And on page 171, this is kind of a long quote, so bear with me. "Well-worn habits crept into Isaiah, threatening to overtake him. For a fleeting moment, instinct told him to deny Angel, pretend she'd accidentally grabbed a hold of his hand in error or desperation. He felt a similar mischievous smile sneak across his face, forcing itself on like a too-tight costume. Then he looked over at Angel. She'd noticed his hesitation somehow, felt his energy shifted, and that snapped him back into reality." And after that, he takes her hand again and kisses it, and that is pretty much, the end-all point of this with Muggy. And basically, to give you a quick little summary, he does knock him on his butt, like I said in the summary. So, yes, that is pretty much the end of Muggy in that sense, although he does make a pretty big comeback at the end of the story. That conflict comes to a head right there, and that is when I think Isaiah, you see him fully detached, like completely fully detached. He has proved to not only to himself but to Angel that he is changed. He is a different man. So yeah, thank you for watching.